Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Thank you for joining this GP Strategies webinar, where we'll explore best practices and innovative insights to help you and your organization improve performance.
Welcome to today's program showcase called Leadership Evolution. I want to take a second and introduce you to our presenters for today. What do you call it? Sorry. Let me introduce you to Lisa Fagan. She is a vice president of GP Strategies. She focuses on providing clients with leadership development, employee engagement, coaching, mentoring solutions, and she has built and deployed growth strategies, managed global and national sales teams, designed and executed alliance programs. Welcome today, Lisa. And then also I want to introduce you to Cara Halter. She's the Senior Director of Global Learning Innovations for GP Strategies. She consults on digital learning information transformation, creation of innovative learning experiences, and learning-centric design principles. She is a recognized expert, having presented for many professional organizations on GP strategy and on GP Strategies podcast series. So welcome, ladies. And with that, I would just like to pass it over to you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kim. Great to be with all of you. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Kim. I'd like to share with everyone that's on the line exactly how we're going to spend our time together this short period of time. We're going to cover a lot. We're going to start just with a couple minutes about GP strategies. In case you aren't familiar with our organization, I'll take a few moments to tell you a little bit about us. Then we're going to go into sharing with you our latest program release called A Leadership Evolution. We'll have a little bit of a demo that Cara is going to lead us through, so you can actually get into the platform and see what the experience is like. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So that's how we're going to spend the next 45 minutes. If we could go to the next slide, please, Kim. Thank you. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about GP Strategies as an organization. If we can go to that next slide, please. GP Strategies is the world's largest global people transformation company, which is a mouthful to say. But in essence, we do everything end to end in the development space, from managing your learning services, if an organization wants to outsource that function to us, to developing bespoke content, to actually doing research-based proven training content. I want to draw your attention to a couple of the circles that you see here on the screen, because that's really most germane to what we're going to be spending our time talking about today in terms of GP's capabilities. And that is the data-driven research piece is what fuels the development of our content. So while many organizations will say that they research and then they develop content, what we do that's a little bit different is that we tend to pulse, because in our experience, the marketplace, particularly now, is changing so rapidly that we want to stay abreast of those changes and challenges that affect leaders' performance. So we really do our research more in a rapid pace, pulsing fashion. And as I said, we allow that to fuel the development and the deployment, the way we brief our trainers and have them show up to do delivery for our clients. The other circle that I want to draw your attention to is something that we really pride ourselves in, and that is our focus on innovation. So we have a chief learning innovation officer who manages something we call our innovation kitchen, and a full team of folks that spend their entire time scanning the marketplace for innovations around the learning space, ways that we can support our clients in leveraging those innovative approaches to learning, as well as leveraging those same methods in our own development of programs. And so today we're going to reveal to you one of those innovations. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so love to get you all talking with us. So I'm going to ask you a question. Please populate in the chat. Can you give us a sense? This is for Cara and I to have an understanding of, the folks that we have in the room here with us. how many of you are exploring alternative training delivery methods? So beyond the traditional classroom or virtual instructor-led programs that many organizations use today, how many of you are leveraging alternative methods? Can you just sort of comment in the chat if you're doing something that's different from, I see a hand raised, thank you. So we just want to get a pulse, a sense of how many of you have had exposure to and are actively leveraging different methodologies for delivering learning. Okay, so I see some yeses in the chat. All right, excellent. So that gives us an idea of where we are in terms of knowledge on the group that's on the call. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So while GP Strategies has an entire full library of content that's deployed via virtual instructor-led and classroom, the more traditional methods, we have maintained and been on the forefront of bringing digital learning experiences to our clients. We released Leadership Essentials, was the first program that was a digital journey, an 8-week journey that we released to organizations. In some ways, we co-created with a couple of our clients who were forward thinking. And it actually, in all of these instances, they were co-creations that then became programs and offerings that we brought to the broader marketplace. So Leadership Essentials was the first, and it was focused on frontline leaders and is still available today and is widely used by many of our clients. Leadership Acceleration was the second program, which was more focused on leaders having the ability to drive results, so more of a senior leader audience. And today we're talking to you about Leadership Evolution that slots right in the middle for mid-managers, say between 0 and 3 years in a leadership role. That's really meant to equip them with the skill sets to have impact in the business, to drive performance. So we're going to share with you quite a bit about this capability today, and we're so proud to be able to reveal this program. The program is a 13-week journey. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Kim. Well, before I go to the questions, there is a little slide later that tells you about the actual flow, and I'm going to take you through that, and Cara will take you through the demo of it. But it is a 13-week journey. We'll give you the details, and we'll drill down on that when we get to that slide. For now, what I want to ask you, if you can share with me, is if you feel that you have within your organization the ability to effectively scale your leadership development programs. And the reason we're asking this question is these digital journeys that GP Strategies has available in its suite, Leadership Essentials, Leadership Evolution, Leadership Acceleration, are meant to bring learning and development to organizations at scale. So get to large populations, be able to do it efficiently and within the flow of work. So my question to you all is, do you feel that you can effectively scale your leadership development programs today? So if you could populate the chat for me, that would be great. And I'm going to hand to Cara, because I've been promising you during my part that Cara is going to tell you more. So here's Cara to tell you more about the actual program.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And not too many answers in the chat yet, but I'm seeing some yeses and some nos. So, and it seems like nos are starting to pop up a little more often, which is exactly why we're here. I think especially for larger organizations, being able to scale leadership in particular has been a challenge. And that is one of the reasons that we wanted to focus on a digital solution that does provide scale, but at the same time does not lose the effectiveness that comes with those more traditional approaches, especially when it comes to human connection and engagement of the learners. I think when a lot of people start hearing digital, you start to picture things like page turner e-learning courses where you're just clicking next and you end up with a multiple choice test at the end, and that's kind of the end of it. So if you want to click to the next screen, Kim, this is a little bit more about what we consider when we talk about digital. It is not at all an e-learning course. It is a social, collaborative, engaging experience that is all 4 of these things that you see on the screen. So just to give you a little quick hit on what each of these 4 things are and what we mean by it, we are still doing leadership in a cohort-based environment. So you're still going through the journey with your peers typically in about 80 people or so, and you're going to hear more about that as we talk through the rest of this session. But we try to target about 80 people in this experience, and that can scale up or down from there, but that's sort of our target starting point. So you're going through this semi-synchronously. So there's a lot of pieces that you can do on your own time, at your own pace, and in the order that you want, but you are still going through it in a time-released fashion with other people so that you're experiencing it together and have those social opportunities to learn from each other. But you're also learning with a coach who is an expert in leadership and bringing that to the table as well to be able to answer your questions and help and pull out some of that those learning moments as you're experiencing the content. It is a spaced learning experience. So Lisa already told you it's 13 weeks. And all of our leadership programs are like this. They are typically 8 to 13 week programs. And a couple of things that we love about that is it really supports neuroscience and how people learn. You know, when you learn things in small chunks and you get an opportunity to practice it and then build on those skills as you go, it really is a better way to have impact in the organization and to really have those opportunities to apply, as opposed to the more traditional ILT approach where you tend to come into the classroom for 3 days and then disappear. It's hard to kind of keep bringing those people back to bring those topics back top of mind and really emphasize how are you using it in your day-to-day life in the real job. So that's one huge benefit of the space piece. The other piece, as the learning nerd on the call today, is I think it also gives us some really unique opportunities to get that qualitative, almost level 3 learning evaluation and data about how people are applying it and the impact you're starting to get on the organization before you even get to the end of the program and send that final smiley sheet evaluation. So you're really getting opportunities to collect how this is impacting your organization before you've even finished the program itself. The program's also social, so we kind of started to hint at that already, and you'll see a lot more as to how that works when you see the demo later on. But you are networking with your peers, you have opportunities to discuss what you're learning and the challenges that you're facing and what this really looks like in your organization, while also getting that guidance from an expert. And then last is the micro piece of it. So there is still some e-learning-esque pieces here, but we really try to make it short form, that micro learning modality, so that you can come in and out of the platform how you want and experience content in just those little nuggets. So typically 3 to 5 minutes to watch a quick video, read something quickly, listen to a podcast, and you'll see how you can navigate through that on your own pace in just a little bit. So if you want to click to the next screen. So the last slide was really, what does digital mean to us? That is consistent across all of our programs, including evolution that we're talking about today. This slide digs a little bit deeper than that in saying, when you buy a leadership product from us, one of those digital leadership products, you also get all of this. So this is what we bring to the table that we really believe is one of our differentiators, and that these programs are not meant to be 100% off the shelf. We really think that from a relevance perspective and in terms of how your learners are going to interact with the content and be able to connect with that content, it needs to look and feel like your organization. So those first 3 boxes there are all about how we do that. You know, you get to brand it with your logos, your colors, your look and feel of your organization. There are opportunities throughout the experience where you can contextualize it with your language, your company or leadership vision or your values, stories from your learners, videos from your leaders to, share what their perspective is about what leadership means in your organization, or to link to your existing content. We know that leadership training is certainly not a new thing, and many of you probably have some really good chunks of information or nuggets out there already. So we want to be able to incorporate that into these programs. The right half of the chart is really more about how we try to make this a holistic experience for our learners. We don't want it to be just about the content. We want it to be about their full experience. So that includes a communications and marketing plan that has those push and pull elements, so that we're telling them what they need to do, what their expectations are for that week, but also hoping to pull them back into the experience in a motivational way so that there's a reason for them to keep coming back. And it is a blended experience. It is not 100% digital. We do really feel strongly that those live touch points where you have opportunities to come together like this and talk to each other face to face or voice to voice, even if it's in a virtual format, are really important and part of how the learning really happens. So those elements on the right are about that human connection that I mentioned earlier. It is digital, but it is digital focused on how do we build that human connection and how do we make sure that learners are staying engaged with the program that we have designed. All right, so let's move on and talk more about what this particular journey really looks like. So Lisa, back over to you for a minute.
Sure. Thank you, Cara. All right, so if we go to the next slide, these next two slides are going to give you, a deeper view to the content, and then we're going to launch into the demo of the platform. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a program that is targeted to mid-managers, so 0 to 3 years of experience. But I want you to think about it a couple of ways. For organizations that are smaller, and I did see a couple of comments in the chat about, well, we really haven't had a need to do leadership development at scale yet. So for organizations that might have smaller populations of leaders, you could utilize leadership evolution for both mid-managers and senior managers. So I don't want you to think of it as just strictly for mid-managers. It really kind of depends on the structure of your organization and what the skill set needs are of your leaders within the business. So when we have designed it in cooperation with other clients, they were fairly large organizations and they did have that stratification of their leaders in their organization. And it made sense to say, all right, our foundational program is Leadership Essentials, our mid-manager program is Leadership Evolution, and our senior leader program is Leadership Acceleration. How we apply that to other clients is going to be highly dependent to their needs. So just kind of know that. Let's talk a little bit about the modality and duration, and then the pre-work. So it is, as Cara mentioned, one of our innovative approaches to modern-based learning for leaders. And so it does appear on a platform that has the social elements, that has the live elements, that has the opportunities to come together in cohort moments and times to work independently in that 13-week journey. 5 weeks of the journey, actually, I think it's 4 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cara, on that. But yep. It's 5 week is dedicated to pre-program work. So what happens in that pre-program work is a combination of 3 things. And so if you're looking at that third bullet here, pre-work required, it is a 360 assessment, which is really essential to the experience because you're identifying the gaps in your skills at that point. And then the identification of a leadership challenge. Both of those are used extensively throughout the journey. The third element of the pre-work is one-to-one coaching. This is an optional component, and so the experience can dial back to an 11-week experience if you choose not to do the one-to-one coaching, or it becomes a 13-week journey if you're using the one-to-one coaching on the front end of the experience. So hopefully that makes sense. And then once that pre-work is completed, then you're launching into the topics that are spread over an 8-week period of time that you see here to the right. So if we could go to the next slide, what I want to share with you here is a real high level view to sort of the flow of that journey. So we start out with the participant kickoff, which is the live event. You're meeting the moderator, you're meeting the coach, you're getting the lay of the land, you're getting the information about what's to come in the following weeks, you're understanding what your assignments are for pre-work. So all of that happens in a live experience that's done with everybody that's in the cohort. Then those next weeks that you see identified here are dedicated to the pre-work that I just described. And where you see the handshake happening, that is the optional one-to-one coaching that we're using that icon to depict happens in part 2 of the pre-work, with the weeks that are dedicated for the pre-work. So if you choose not to do the one-to-one coaching, then as I said, the experience comes down to 11 weeks as opposed to 13. Once we are completed with the pre-work, then we go right into the different segments of the content that are about leading self, leading teams, leading others, and leading enterprise, as we've outlined here. You can see that in the flow where we have the ellipses, those are meant to represent cohort conversations. This is when we're coming together with a coach and having conversations about the content and having a chance to debrief those and talk about the application of those skills. So we're inserting here in the journey cohort conversations every other week. So then the experience culminates with the final session there that you see, the program completion. That is kind of a blend of a wrap with one more cohort conversation. So you're talking about the skills that you experienced in the week prior, what you saw around leading enterprise, and you're getting a full program wrap up at that point. So that's a high level sort of walkthrough of the experience. I'm going to pass back to Cara so she can bring this to life for us in the form of a demo. Oh, I do have one more slide, and I was giving it to you.
Have a couple more slides.
Too soon. I was so excited about the demo that I jumped ahead of the slide. This is an important slide, folks, that I just want to make you aware of, that it is about the 360. Sometimes we get the question, what's in the 360? What's the 360 like? So the 360 is built around 60 questions, 30 of which are dedicated to importance, 30 of which are dedicated to effectiveness. And then we have open-ended questions as well. Within this deployment of the 360, you're also identifying your leadership challenge. So we inserted a slide here just so you could get a little bit of a feel for what the 360 looks like, because there are times when we have folks that ask us about that. So now I believe we're going to Cara to, no, we're not. Stop it. This next slide is just a representation of that optional coaching piece that I mentioned to you all a little while ago. That's just meant to depict that during that pre-work experience, in addition to the 360, you have the option to add that one-to-one coaching. So now I know we're going to the demo.
Really is neat. Yep. And we're not quite going to start the demo yet. I want to talk a little bit more about the meat of the program, which is, those next 8 weeks after you've completed the assessment. You've had some time to really digest the feedback that you got from that assessment, had an opportunity to meet with a coach and talk about it, and really identify where are the places that I want to grow as a leader, where are those opportunities for me to build and develop as a leader. And to really refine that leadership challenge that you have identified so that you can apply the skills that you learned through these next 8 weeks to that challenge, and really start to make a difference immediately in how you are behaving as a leader. So these next 8 weeks, you're going to see a pattern. So you saw in the journey map that Lisa laid out there that it's sort of a 2-week pattern. And we focus on, in each of those 2-week chunks, a different lens. So you saw leading self, leading others, leading teams, and leading enterprise. And it really follows what we would consider a flipped classroom model. So you spend the first week of that 2-week piece learning independently and exploring that week's core mindset. So you have a different mindset for each of those modules. And then just 1 or 2 core important concepts about being a leader. But there are still those social elements. So you're still going to have the opportunity to discuss and share with each other and bring some of those real life experiences forward. Then the following week is when we bring the group together. And you heard me say earlier that this is about scale, right? So we want to be able to roll this out to 80 people, 100 people all at the same time. But it's hard to have really good conversation in a group of 80 people. So that second week where those cohort conversations are happening, we actually break the group down into more like groups of 20 or so. And even within that, we really focus on a lot of breakout activities to really be able to dig deeper into these topics and encourage application of the content and the concepts that you're learning, and to have that really strong opportunity for debrief to understand what are the challenges with doing that in your organization? How are you going to address those hurdles? How can you support each other in that process to, grow as a team and as an organization? So you'll see that there is a focus on reflection and accountability throughout this entire experience. And I'll kind of talk about some of those different components as we go through it. But I will say one thing that does make this program maybe just a little bit different from Leadership Essentials or from Leadership Acceleration is truly the very intentional approach that we have taken to ask learners to think, feel, and act differently, to shift their mindset and change behavior. I think that's the goal typically of any training program, and our other programs certainly have that in it as well. But there is a very intentional focus on it here to almost limit the amount of content that you're consuming in order to really focus on those behavior changes that we want the leaders to make. So giving you just a little bit of a better idea as to what are those behavior changes, what are the skills that we're trying to teach. In the first module on leading self, the mindset that we focus on there is growth mindset. So obviously a big buzzword in the industry and really across business for quite a while now, and Carol Dweck kind of came up with those concepts. But that's one of the big focuses of yourself as a leader. How do I focus on being a better leader and having that growth mindset to help set up success for the other people that I'm leading as well? The concepts that we're hitting that week is self-limiting beliefs. What are those self-limiting things that you have put on yourself that hold you back? And then we also introduce a couple of other core themes in that first group about accountability. So you'll see that theme keep coming back throughout the journey. And also about having a strong leadership brand. Who are you as a leader, and how does that impact your presence in the organization? Leading others then gets into the inclusive mindset. So another theme that goes throughout, but the mindset that we focus on when leading others is about the importance of being inclusive and really creating that feeling of belonging and bringing forward your organization's value prop for DE&I. Obviously a very important theme in many organizations over the last few years. So we tried to really bake that into this section of the program. The skills and the behavior changes that we're focusing on there are really about trust and how trust plays that such an important role in holding those that you lead accountable and building those relationships across people on your team. But then we're also talking about how effective leaders balance what's important and what also has impact, so that they're focusing on not just the things that they're good at, right? We did the self-assessment at the beginning of the program to identify your strengths and your opportunities, and there's a tendency to just do what you're good at. So we really want to draw that forward to say, don't just focus on the things you're good at, but also what really matters and what's important to you and to the organization. Then we go to leading teams, which is the next big module there. And that is the mindset that we're focusing on there is agile, the agility aspect of how important that is in today's organizations as a leader to develop an agile mindset, and what happens when you don't have an agile mindset, and how that can shape the way that you work with your teams and that you work to manage both up, down, and across the organization. The skills that we bring out here are what we refer to as the 7 components or 7 distinctions of being a strong leader to lead a high-performing team. And that includes, you see a couple of them mentioned there, clearly not all 7 of them, but that includes things like decision-making skills or collaboration or how you handle conflict or how you manage engagement of your team. So that really hits a bunch of topics in a different way to think about that holistic experience of being a leader. And then the last section is enterprise. And our mindset there is enterprise thinking, kind of an obvious one for that group, about how as you as a leader are doing things independently and doing things with your team, what does that mean to your organization on a broader perspective? And we bring back the accountability theme there about how do you view all these new leadership skills that you've just gained from the perspective of how you lead others, but also how you hold yourself accountable to the organization and support the organization with those skills. And what you see kind of listed there are what we refer to as 5 enterprise capabilities. So you see thinking differently, demonstrating courage, communicating with clarity, being a multiplier, which it's personally one of my favorites, and focusing on what matters. So that's a quick callback to things that we introduced back in the Leading Others group. So you can see this is a little bit different. If you recall back to one of the early slides that Lisa showed across our different programs that we offer, there's not a lot of real specific individual skills in this program, where there's not a module that is about handling conflict. There's not a module about communication. We try to make this a little bit more of more of an experiential learning, more about core concepts, more about those lenses and how you're thinking about yourself as a leader and how you fit into the organization and what that means to how you lead your people. And then the last piece is the capstone. As you are going through this entire program, participants are working towards this capstone assignment. So that capstone assignment includes, we ask the learners to create a future-focused brand statement. So we introduce that back at the very beginning of the program and in the leading self piece. And you're refining it throughout the organization or throughout the journey. And then at the end, we really ask you to submit, what is that future-focused brand statement for you as a leader? And then we also have that focus on a commitment to action, asking them to set goals that are going to support those that they lead and support the enterprise going forward in an application of these skills. So there is a little workbook, and I'll show you this in the demo in a second, that you download at the beginning of the program and continue to build on and refine throughout the program. So by the time you get to the end, it should be a relatively easy experience to then say, okay, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm going to do with it. And I want to make that public commitment to my leaders, my coach, and my peers that are in here with me about what it is that I'm going to do. And then I think there's one more little piece to the build slide here that just talks about some of those themes that I've brought up with accountability and what that means, and especially not just in your job, but also in part of this program. Part of the reason we build the larger cohort, then the sort of sub cohorts that attend those live events together, and then even go down into those smaller groups, is to even help hold each other accountable throughout the experience to make that a more meaningful learning experience, not just a leadership experience. And then of course the mindsets and also that focus on behavior change. All right, I think it is time for demo. Yes.
I've only been alluding to it for about the last 35 minutes.
I know, you're jumping the gun.
I was so excited.
Oh, okay, it says I'm not allowed to share. Kim, can you help me out?
While you're getting that up, Cara, let me just, there was a message or a question sent to us, to the panelists and to the hosts regarding how we get behavior change. And you were just highlighting that just now. So I want to make sure that the person that was asking that question feels like their question was answered. They were also asking about the volume of content in a week. And I think you alluded to that as well. I mean, we're not going deep dive into a specific topic. We're offering that, kind of that view, the lens that we want leaders to look through and give them a chance to speak to one another and hold each other accountable relative to how they should be addressing those specific issues. So, so anything else you want to say on that front, Cara?
Yeah, and I can probably hint to a few of those things as we go. Oops, sorry, they've got a little window floating over here in the corner to get that out of the way. Yeah, I don't know that I did say that earlier in the journey, that we do try to keep these, the learning time commitment to about 90 minutes to 120 minutes a week. We do know that time is very valuable these days, and it is difficult to keep up so frequently. So we do want to try to keep that. That's part of the reason for the space journey, so that you have those opportunities to learn in small chunks and that you can more easily weave it into your day. So typically it's about a 90-minute to 120-minute commitment, and that does include how much time does it take to you to consume the content, which realistically in this experience, there is not a ton of content to consume. It's more focused on, I think, are you guys seeing the share bar at the top? Apologies, that is
we're seeing the actual platform. I see. Welcome,
okay.
Cara. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So yeah, we really try to focus more on the reflection moments, the application moments, the story sharing, the storytelling, the sharing of real life experiences. And that takes time, right? So we want to account for that in the learner commitment to have that time to reflect and participate in the experience.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say in answer to that question about, because the second part of that question was how do we get behavior change? You know, again, given the time constraints, the time we're trying to get to a larger population, potentially train at scale, cover a lot of ground. I cannot minimize the importance of the coaching aspect of the design, right? So the time that's spent in the cohort conversations with your cohort peers is super important to embedding the skill set and getting that deeper understanding and application to different situations that you're dealing with as a leader. But the one-to-one coaching is also a huge opportunity for that embedding of skills to the individual at the individual level. So just want to stress the importance of those, and that's what's in the design in our minds that drives behavior change. So Cara, I'll let you take.
Apologies, I do not know where that just came from. All
There's
right, so you practice all these things and then weird things happen even when you try not to, right?
You're fine.
And now I've lost my mouse.
Okay, well, let me check the chat to
All right.
see if there's any other questions coming in while you're getting that sorted.
Yep, apologies.
No worries. So let's see. Thank you. What happens?
Out of the way.
So there's a question about whether or not the one-to-one happens with GP strategies experts. So the one-to-one, so I don't think everyone, yes, you are seeing, everyone is seeing this question pop up. I didn't know if that was to host and panelists. So the one-to-one coaching is done by GP strategies certified coaches. We do have the ability, not a whole lot of clients want to do this because this is some work on their part, but we do have the ability to certify organizations in both moderation and coaching. But we have yet to have a client take us up on that. Most of them want to rely on our expertise and our abilities to do the delivery, manage the platform, and work with individuals from a coaching perspective. So, all right, you're back up.
I am. Apologies for that. So, okay, so this is our online experience. So this is sort of the base camp for the experience, knowing that it is a blended experience and you're going to be bouncing around between different tools. But this is the beginning point of your experience. So this is hosted on a platform called Intrepid. So that is a partner of ours. It is not our platform. It is a partnership that we have very deep relationships with that is focused on those social collaborative cohort-based learning experiences. So it is 100% designed to support those digital learning experiences that we talked about at the beginning of the session. So let me just highlight a couple of things that you've heard me mention, but always pictures are always worth 1,000 words, right? It's always a lot more meaningful when you see what that actually looks like. So a couple of quick things to highlight here is, first of all, you see all these tabs across the top. So this is a time release program. So when learners first come to the experience, they're only going to have access to pre-programmed part 1, and it's typically on a weekly cadence that each one of those other programs will come out. So that's where that semi-synchronous idea comes in. So you are getting access to new content at the same time as everybody else is. So you're not going to work too far ahead of anybody else, but you always have the opportunity to go backwards and catch up as well. Then within each of those individual modules, this is generally what the content looks like. So each one of these little boxes is one of those short form micro learning elements. So it may be a video, it may be text, it may be a document you can download, it may be a link to an external site, but each one of these little boxes is about that 3 to 5 minute learning experience. And you can navigate however you want. So it is not forcing you to go through it in any particular order. You can pick and choose what you want to learn and how much time you want to spend there. And actually, even the completion requirements don't ask you to complete every single tile on the page. There is some autonomy there to say, hey, this isn't as important to me. I'm going to skip that little piece. The other thing I want to highlight is what the social elements can look like here. So as an example, this little box here is something we refer to as a mission. So these are baked in throughout the program at strategic points to give those opportunities for that storytelling and that experience sharing. So these are almost like little mini homework assignments. They may be 2 questions, 3 questions, but an opportunity for you to answer in just a text format, to upload a picture, to upload a document, to even shoot a little video of yourself sharing your story. And then when you upload that, then it is immediately shared with everybody else in your cohort, and you have the opportunity to respond and comment on each other's. So this is a super simple example of this, that right at the beginning of the experience, we do ask people to share about themselves. So I did just so you can kind of see what this looks like. I completed this for myself before we got started. Super simple. I answered just a couple of quick questions. I, entered a sentence or two. You shared a story about something who you are outside of your work life, and a little bit about, that beginning idea of what is your leadership legacy, where are you headed, which is that early hint at that leadership brand idea. And then you can see there's a place to be able to enter those comments. So it's a very social platform, encouraging people to start that dialogue with each other, to network with each other, and to learn more about who the other leaders are in your organization. You will also see that there are opportunities throughout where those contextualization moments are ready for you to plug in your content. So right here, you'll see when I open this, it's just a big black box, but this is a place where we want you to, get your senior leaders, get your sponsor of the program into a video, and this is where we're going to drop it in. So right at the very beginning, you're going to hear from people within your organization about why this is important, why you've invested in them, and why this training is going to, be important to your company. As you go through the program, then you'll see that consistent pattern. So each of the part ones of a module are about what are you doing that week? What is this topic all about? What is the mindset that we're going to cover that week? So mindset of a leader, what does mindset mean? Have some opportunities to discuss those things and apply those things. The self-limiting beliefs, what does that mean? And you can see, here's another mission, a little social moment about those. And there's usually a little bit of thought-provoking, encouraging people to start that reflection process in that part one. Then as you get into part two, you'll see that we have the reminder about the live event at the top of the page. This is where those cohort conversations happen. And then this is also where we are really asking learners to stop and have those reflection moments about what are you learning? What are your aha moments? Go back to that journal that you downloaded at the beginning and really capture what are those things I'm going to do to work towards that behavior change. And I know I did hear somebody say, what do we do for behavior change? Let me highlight quickly here. Part of the key concepts that we talk about is the cognitive triangle of, when you think, when you think about your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, how do you consider each one of those as you go through learning something new? And then how do you apply those things to truly make a shift? So we do introduce that behavior change model right up front at the beginning of the experience, and then continue to come back and reinforce that throughout the rest of the experience. And I know we are right up against time, but I do want to share one quick thing. Part of the fun of this platform is that it is also gamified. So you may have noticed that all the different tiles that we're clicking on out there did have points associated with them. So there is a leaderboard and badges and things that you can earn as you go through the experience to hopefully motivate some people with that productive competition and an opportunity to really grab people's attention in a different way. All right, I will stop sharing. That was a very quick flyby. So if you're interested, we can certainly schedule more time to dive deeper and show you more about what that experience looks like.
That's right, Cara. And we'll have lots of opportunities to do that as we go forward. This is the official release of the program. And so as we come up on the last few minutes that we have with you today, let me share with you something that we're super, super proud of and happy about. And that is that we were just awarded by Brandon Hall Group the Silver Award for this program that was around it being innovation. And it was in cooperation, it being an innovative leadership program, excuse me. And it was in cooperation and with a submission with the client that we co-created this program with and have now released it broadly. So, a few comments here that you can see here on the screen. It was one of the best leadership training programs I've ever taken. Loving the program. These came directly from the client that we partnered with to design the program. And then, as I mentioned, we were just awarded. We just received that news. I think it was a week ago, right, Cara, that we got that news from Brandon Hall.
Yeah, maybe a couple of weeks ago. Yep.
Yeah,
and actually that award was not just for this program, it was for the entire series. So that particular client, we do actually have Essentials, Evolution, and Acceleration as part of them. So it really was about the entire series of leadership programs for them. But the rest of the stats on here are all about this particular program with the Evolution Group.
Great. All right. So I think we may have just a minute left. Would love to hear if there are any other questions. Feel free to either populate the chat or come off mute and ask away. And as while we're waiting, here we go. I see some questions. I see comments about congratulations. Thank you. How do you encourage participants to write comments and engage in the platform, considering that they are very busy professionals? I'm going to let you take that, Cara.
Sure. And that is certainly not an uncommon question that we get almost anytime we kick off one of these digital leadership journeys with a new client is, this is a different way of learning. So there's a couple things I think we do is it is a change management process. So you do need to educate your leaders and your leadership about, what is this program? How is it going to be different? We try to start the process a couple of weeks before the journey even starts to let the learners know this is going to be different. You do need to set the time aside to do it. We try to do that with a communication plan and a marketing plan. And we do things even in that communication plan to say, at the beginning of the week, we call it Start Strong. So we're telling you what needs to happen, what do you need to do? And at the end of the week, it's our Finish Strong messaging. And we frequently grab examples of what is happening in the platform. So we grab a quote from somebody who did participate that week. We include that in the communication and we tell learners, if you're not there, this is what you're missing. These are the kinds of things that people are discussing. So it's motivational to pull people back in, but it's also a little of that reward and recognition, acknowledging that as people are contributing and participating, people are paying attention, and that there is people reading that information. And then I think the last piece that I just want to harken back on is the coach. I think that coach experience that is there in the platform every single day, responding to the questions and making those discussions a valuable place is a huge differentiator in making that social experience valuable.
Since we're at time, there are two other questions that popped into the chat. I'm going to quickly answer those and then I'm going to wrap us up here. One was, can we customize the experience? The answer is yes. Cara touched on some of the aspects of ways that we can customize. Happy to discuss that further with you if you have specific questions about things that you would like to customize. And then there was a second question in the chat about how can we access and use this platform. So that's all part of how we engage with you in terms of the deployment. So I would recommend that we have a separate sidebar conversation with you about what that access looks like. So with that, Cara, I want to thank you for being my partner in crime here. As always, it's a joy to work with you. Kim, thank you for your expert moderation help here on this webinar. So Kim, do you want to wrap us up and take us home?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you, Lisa and Cara, for a great presentation and a great discussion today. And of course, everybody who has taken their time to join us and your attention for today. I do ask at the end of the session, if you take just a minute to fill out the survey, we would appreciate your feedback for future webinars. And be sure to visit GP Strategy's website for future sessions. And I want to wish everyone on the call a wonderful and productive rest of your day. Thank you again, everyone.
This webinar was brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we help organizations transform through their people. You can access more webinars or download additional resources by visiting the GP Strategies Resource Library. The link is on your screen and in the description.